Trey, Joe, and his staff were incredible. I spent 2 days with these great folks, and I have to tell you, you should be very, very proud of the employees that you have working for you. Marty Duvall. Marty Duvall was kind of the cog of the wheel, and at times she felt like she was going to pull her hair out, but she kept her cool. And I think I can speak for all the teams that participated that it was just a great experience for everybody. And again, thank you, Public Works and Trey and Marty.
Thank you, Doug. I just got to make one follow-up comment. Great job, Trey, to you and your staff, but you still got to come to work. This next item, I think, is very appropriate. We are entering into the Thanksgiving holidays. We were notified this morning by TxDOT that this afternoon and tomorrow will probably be an all-time record-setting of vehicles on the road. You'll see some of that probably out on 71. Our police department is going to have to really be staffed up. And then you're really going to see it on Sunday when they project the Tuesday and Wednesday drivers coming back home on Sunday. And for me, it's very important that each one of you travel safely. And I received this in the mail about a week ago. It really didn't hit me until after we got that report. Distracted driving kills. 1 in 5 fleet vehicles are involved in a crash annually. Drivers who use cell phones are 36 times more likely to get into an accident. Over 40% of the accidents are caused by distracted drivers. Right now, which I think would probably be higher, there are 660,000 drivers on the roads using their cell phones. So that's a distraction. So they sent me this bag and say, remember, keep safe. When you're driving, put your cell phone in the bag and pay attention to driving, and so you can all return back to Bastrop safely. Thank you.
For those of us lucky enough to be living in Old Town and don't have to get out on the highway on the day before Thanksgiving, I'll recommend something my wife and I did when we escaped from Waco and moved back to Bastrop 12 years ago. We took our yard chairs out to the boot company. Gary's the best in those days, and just sat down and watched the traffic. It was pretty interesting to not have to be in it. But God bless everybody that has to be in it. And Mike's on the serious side of this. Appreciate that, being safe. And I want to go back to just to say publicly, I've said it earlier, to Kelly and to her partner Kay for putting together with the Bastrop County do a wonderful recycling program. It just helps all the way. And the thing that I know you mentioned to me that was most impressive is all except the Democratic Party. I guess though y'all are all over 18. There were young people, and if that doesn't give us hope for the future, nothing does. So that's cool. Any other no other announcements? Mike, we're ready to roll with your city manager.
I'm going to be brief because I know we have an extensive meeting tonight. You didn't get this yesterday. One thing I want to remind everyone of is next Tuesday night we have a special city council meeting. The first part of the meeting will be a joint meeting with the Planning and Zoning Commission on infill development in the city, and then on wastewater and water infrastructure improvements to the west side of the city. Item G, it's just for the council's application, starting the week of December 14th. The council chambers will be closed for a week as we finish up installing all the cameras and audio equipment that you've been asking for. So come January 1, we can come in here. To keep my fingers crossed, we're going to really knock you out, and you'll be live streaming both on television for your meetings and on your computers. And so we're really excited, and Andres and Colin have just my first brief city moving forward, had 23,000 hits. So people are looking at us, and so I think this is really a great tool to be transparent and reach out to the public. With that, I'll address any questions the council may have on my report.
Questions or comments about future agenda items or anything you want the city manager to look into? Doctor?
Just a quick one, Mike, are you ready to speak about Plan B yet for the shelter grant?
Yes, pretty much to meet the time frame, we're really zeroing in on what I would call an activity center. The proposed site would be the Bob Bryant Park site, and it'll be between 6,000 to 6,500 square foot building. It will not have what we would call a gymnasium, but it will have a kind of a recreational area, and it certainly will be a great improvement for our senior citizens to use. And we're looking at scheduling maybe from 10 to 2 or 3 for the seniors, and then 3 to 5 or 6 if the Boys and Girls Club wants to take advantage of it. And we'll be opening it up to other clubs the way that you'll see the design on the 8th. But we are pulling all the elements together, and so I'm really excited how far we've come. And I think you'll be pleased. It's going to be a very flexible building, and we're going to keep it under the $1.5 million cost as you've asked for. So all the way around, I think we will clearly have our place card holder on the judge's desk by the time frame that has been requested.
Kelly, thanks for bringing that up. Let me just test the council a little bit. I think we have had so many conversations about this. I think Mike's pretty clear on what the structure of what y'all want, the general views. So we only have one council meeting in December, one regular council meeting. So are y'all comfortable with Mike's laid out probably what he's going to present in a couple of weeks? Are we okay with just being able to knock it out in that one meeting?
I think because
I think I'm seeing nods in the head, Mike, so I think we're in good shape on our schedule.
you're going to have a cost estimate, a site plan, a schematic, and everything.
But real question is, we don't like it, there's nowhere else to go. So just tell me you got it.
The biggest thing is, and the mayor hits a key point, that is a site that really has all the utilities available and actually has an abundance of parking, because we're going to be putting it across a street from a parking lot. So when we have large gatherings, there's going to be more than ample parking for like the seniors, if they want to have a Saturday night dance in the activity area. There'll be some classrooms, there'll be a kitchen, and so I think it's going to be a very used building once it gets up and operational, if that's where we end up.
I don't anticipate a problem on the first December meeting, but I'm always willing to call an extra meeting if we have to get something done completely general in that meeting. So just to put you on notice about that. Willie?
Do you want to share with the public the proposed name for the building?
I have not, that's how they.
I thought you said we're calling it the
Well, I'm classifying as an activity center.
shelter center instead of a recreation center.
Right, it's not because if we get into a gymnasium, then we will exceed the 1.5. But it will be designed, the activity area will be a little larger than this room, and you'll be able to do some recreational activities. That part will have an elevated ceiling, and the kitchen will actually face to serve in there, like if somebody wanted to have a dinner or something like that.
So to clarify, Mike, this is still Plan B, right? And we're
Right.
still in discussions with the YMCA?
I met with them this afternoon, and they know they'll be here on the 8th, but I'm just moving ahead because I got the message loud and clear that you did not want to lose 1.5 $1.5 million. I got that message real clear, and I will have my part done.
Good morning. It's still Plan B, not Plan A. Anything else for the city manager? We move to the consent agenda. We have 7 items which will be voted on at once, unless someone wants to pull one of them off for separate discussion.
I have one question of our city attorney, if I could. Has any of the wording changed on any of these for the second reading, on anything on the consent agenda?
Now, the second reading, the one about the infill development, is not on for second reading tonight. That has gone back for reevaluation and some editing, and I don't think it'll be ready back for second reading until the first meeting in January for you.
So it's been pulled. So
No, it was
all
not.
of these are the
Is
exact
it
same
one?
as last
It's
time.
not one of these 7.
No, it's not what he says. It just was not put on the agenda tonight. Some of you contacted me after the meeting, expressed concern about that one, and I've been working with Ms. Brown, and now we want to vet out some issues at staff level, and I may even submit it to you under my city manager's report before I place it on for second reading.
Hearing no concerns, I will now read the captions for those that are ordinances. Second reading of number A2, second reading of ordinance granting a conditional use permit to allow manufactured home at 1006 Mesquite, being plus or minus 0.5 acres out of Farm Lot 10, east of Main Street, Lot 2, of the proposed Washington number 2 subdivision and area zone SF7, single-family residential setting within the city limits of Bastrop, setting out conditions and providing an effective date. A3, second reading of an ordinance granting a zone change for plus or minus 1.774 acre tract out of Farm Lot 10 east of Main Street from MF2, multifamily 2 to SF7, single-family residential 7 located north of Mesquite Street, also known as 106 Mesquite, within the city limits of Bastrop, Texas, and providing an effective date. A4, second reading of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, amending section 1.15.501, creation of Ethics Commission of the Ethics Ordinance, amending section 1.15501, creation of Ethics Commission of the Ethics Ordinance in the Code of Ordinances of the City of Bastrop, providing a serviceable clause and providing an effective date. A5, a resolution approving the adopting the investment policy for the City of Bastrop, Texas, as amended to clarify the language of investment pools and to increase the maturity allowed on certificates of deposit from 1 to 2 years. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Second.
No discussion, I think, is allowed. We will call the roll in, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Del Rosa.
Yes.
Councilmember McInally.
Yes.
Councilmember Schiff.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Yellowman.
Thank you all. Item D1 is consideration, discussion, and possible action regarding approval of a resolution of the City of Bastrop, Texas, to formalize the work and activities of all City of Bastrop task forces. Councilmember McInally and I talked about this. We've had several task forces over our number of years on the council, where we have to do 7 or whatever it is, 6.5. And we decided that it would be a good idea if we regularize these so that we have the structures that are and the requirements for Open Meetings Act and public postings and meeting in this room whenever possible, so that it's more in line with our commissions, committees, boards, the council, the BEDC. And so we worked with our great city attorney, JC, who drafted this deal for us. And so we lay it before you. Okay, I've talked. It wouldn't hurt me to make a motion.
I would like to second that.
That's okay. Oh, no. That's what the packet's for. I don't have to read the whole thing, though, just the caption. If anybody's unclear, we'll talk about the details of it. Any questions, comments? I think we're ready to vote, Ann.
Councilmember McAdoo?
Yes.
Councilmember Gilliland?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Del Rosa?
Yes.
Councilmember Schiff?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Thank you all. Item D2, I have listened very carefully to your discussion in regard to the change in the ethics ordinance regarding the preferability of having a judge on that, whether the judge is elected by a partisan political system or whatever. And I am very pleased, having listened very carefully to you all, and note that you passed the second reading of it tonight to appoint the Honorable Chris Dugan to place 1 on the Ethics Commission, subject to your confirmation. As you know, Chris was I think probably the first person that Terry Orr thought of when we had a committee to work out a proposed ordinance. He was chosen as the chairman of that group. Terry appointed him as the first, I think he was the first member he appointed on the commission, and the commission elected him the chair, and it's with great pleasure that I'm able to appoint him. Is there a motion to confirm?
So moved.
Everybody's second to take your pick. I'll have to go with Kay and Doc, I think.
Can I ask a question before we go through that?
Sure, this is a subject to discussion, I think.
Would you please define the term that you are appointing Judge Dugan?
Yeah, this term, if we didn't post that, I apologize. The term ends in 2017.
It's a 2-year term starting now?
Well, it's a 3-year term starting in 2014.
So
You're
you're retroactively appointing him from 2014?
I'm filling that position. The way it works is there's a term that's up in 2014. It was a 3-year term. So it ends in 2017. You can count the days if you want to. But Judge Dugan's been filling that position until his successor is appointed. And if you vote yes, he is his own successor, so we're covered. And it will be until 2017, so we keep our rotation. Thank you for pointing that out.
I just want to say, as a staff liaison person to the Ethics Commission and working with them from the beginning till to date, what an honorable pleasure it is to have the opportunity to work with someone like Judge Dugan. He's an inspiration, he's inspiring, and he's very, very, very thoughtful about how we address these issues, and he's just a tremendous asset that we have on that committee. I just respect him the utmost, and pleasure to be able to work. Thank you, Judge.
Please call.
Councilmember McNamara?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Councilmember Gilliland?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Del Rosa? Councilmember Schiff?
Yes.
Judge Dugan is in the House and slightly off the rules here. I'm going to call on him under item D2, 2.34 to come forward and speak to us under none of this item.
I don't want to do anything against the rules, Mayor.
I'm just adding a dot to the rules, so please come forward.
I apologize if I'm a little discombobulated.
No, it's when I call on you, but I thought you wanted to speak after we voted.
I just wanted to say thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. It is back when I was asked to first help draft an ethics ordinance with some other very, very fine folks. It was an honor and a privilege to do that. To be asked then to serve on the commission that the ordinance called for doubled that honor and privilege. And so it really is to be on something that I think is very, very important. I do want to say thank you all to you. I apologize. My daughter just texted me. She backed into a wall, Texas A&M, so I have to go call her. So I'm a little discombobulated about that. But Monica, thank you for those words. It has been, and I'm repeating myself now, an honor and privilege, but when you're dealing with something that's important to me, as it is to all of y'all, the ethics and the integrity of what we do, what I do in my day job, what y'all do up here is incredibly important to me. I know it's important to y'all. And so to be able to serve in this position, to me, is a huge compliment. And I appreciate that. Now let me go call my Yankee.
Well, I'll say, Chris, that I I think at least I consider the commission like you must consider your car insurance agent. We just assume not use you if we don't have to. So I hope we don't have to call you.
I agree. Thank you all very, very much. I appreciate it.
I hope she's doing well, Chris.
And Kelly, once more, you heard me say this privately. I appreciate your helpful clarification of this matter for all of us. Item D3 is consideration, discussion, and possible action on the award of a contract to Langford Community Management Services. And I don't think I need to read the whole thing. So Trey, come tell us about it.
He stepped out for a minute to do something.
You want to skip it, or they?
No, I
He's
can.
coming as we speak.
This is we've been notified of an opportunity to apply for additional generators for the wastewater plant and all the lift stations, and possibly some hazardous mitigation for more drainage work. And this part will be putting those applications together and getting them submitted. But I know for sure, since Ms. McAnally has been on the council, it's been a goal to get generators at all the water facilities, which we've accomplished. And we've been lucky to get funded, so we're continuing that priority of trying to get that money back here to the city. Trey, anything else you want to add?
So you need a motion from us to, I'm sorry, no, you can ask the question. Mike?
Thank you. I noticed that you have Miss Langford down here, and we all know she's the best that can be.
Yes.
But she's so busy, and she
She's got-
takes so long to do things. Are we sure this is the right
Yes.
person?
Yeah, she's expanded her staff, and she has a staff person now assigned to the city. Plus, she comes to Bastrop once a week now,
Oh, great.
because of her work with the FEMA stuff at the county level. So it's just a diversion just to stop over here. And it was their efforts that made us aware that this was coming down so that we could get prepared for it. So they continue to look out for us.
Thank you. Now, this is a wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
I move that we approve.
I think we're ready to vote now.
Councilmember Shipp?
Yes.
Councilmember Gilliland?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Delrosa?
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Thank you all very much. Item D4 is consideration of awarding a contract to an appropriate firm regarding complete budget, scope, et cetera, for hazard mitigation grant program project.
I think Mr. Joe is going to recommend we receive 2 proposals, and based upon the scoring of the staff, we're recommending that we go with BEFCO Engineering. One issue is BEFCO Engineering has done most of the engineering design work for all the lift stations, so clearly he understands what's going to be required from a standpoint. And if we're lucky to get some flood money to expand on our master drainage, Gene knows, as Trey, where the flood spots are in the city, and 2 of them can really get the job done. And Gene has been, from my perspective, very, very considerate towards the city of Bastrop, especially in the last few months, having to work for me on a special item. I think he was getting tired of calling.
Mayor, can I ask?
Will.
On page 60, you said we had a budget, and I didn't see where I'm not that we were going to have to pay for the services.
We will probably take them out of organizational, just to put the applications together.
What was the amount that we budgeted for?
Well, that's what we're going to determine, that's what they're going to put together to submit to the, because each light lift station is going to have a different requirement, and we'll be putting that with we've got to put a budget together to install the generators, and that's what part of the work that we're doing.
You'll also have to pass a resolution to fund the 25% before it's set.
Right.
So whatever the money is, we'll vote on it later.
Yeah. we'll bring it back to you, and you'll see the budget. And then, if you're in agreement, then you will pass a resolution, and Trey, when we pass that resolution, that we're also, the program requires we contribute 25%. That's what we did at both of the water, the Mayfest Park and the Willow Plant generators. And those were very good projects for the city.
We have scoring sheet if anybody in the public needs a copy, we have to show how we work, how the staff worked this out. Any questions about the hearing?
I move that we approve BEFCO for this contract.
Gary and then Doc. Maybe my left ear works better, but I think we're ready to vote.
Councilmember Schiff,
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Gillum,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Del Rosa,
Yes.
Councilmember Manuel. Yes.
Thank you all very much. Item D5, consideration and discussion and possible action on awarding a contract to Excel Construction Services to repair some wastewater treatment plant network.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a project we've also had budgeted in the last year program for repairs on the Gills Branch lift station, Model O, Wilson Street lift station, and it includes repairs of wastewater treatment plant networks, replacement of mechanical screw, to improve the operation of these lines. You can see an illustration there. There's a copy of the recommendation letter from the engineer and a bid technician.
I just like to make two comments. One, this was part of the fiscal year 13 bond issue, or 14, 14. And the initial plans were to just do the Gills Branch lift station and the transmission line from Gills Branch to the wastewater plant. When we got into evaluating it and knowing that we're going to be moving at a point in time across the river, we televised the line. It's in very good condition, and really felt like it would be a waste of money. And so we just made a few adjustments and are upgrading all of the lift stations, and the work that Trey referenced at the wastewater plant, well, let's make it operate more efficiently.
We're talking about Gills Branch?
Yeah.
Transmission line or Model O?
No, Gills Branch transmission lines. We had it televised, and it's not even at capacity at this point. It's in good shape, and so we just tell all of those lift stations that are listed, especially the one over on Wilson Street, was put in 1968. I think we got our money's worth out of that one.
Now, my next question is, what we're gonna do here is gonna repair, take care of everything on Wilson Street.
It's going to take that existing one out, Willie, completely out, and the whole new one's going in.
Glad to hear that.
Well, that's been a long time coming. Like I said,
One of the oldest ones here.
oldest in town, and it was installed in '68, so we did get our money's worth. But in the future, we shouldn't let infrastructure like that go to that length before we replace it.
So moved.
Moved by Willie, seconded by Gary. I believe we're ready to vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Del Rosa, Councilmember Schiff,
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Gillum, yes. Councilmember Manuel. Yes.
Thank you. Item D6, as Mr. Kirkpatrick mentioned, we had a resignation from the BDC board. Carlos Lariano, you will remember that since March, I think it was, we've had 3 new members on that board, and I always say we have a half of the board's new because I'm kind of halfway up to speed, but I've been very
Sorry, Mayor.
I am very disappointed that Carlos found it necessary to resign from the board. He, within a 3-month period, had enough confidence, built up enough confidence on that board to have been elected vice chair, as Sean also mentioned. It's been a driving force behind the kind of changes that I know several council members have been talking to me about for a long time, and a lot of citizens have talked about. So it's a real loss not having Carlos on there. In a critical time where I think that new board has been forming a really good working relationship, and I felt like in the last month or so we were really getting up to speed and doing just a wonderful job of building with a new executive director where we need to go in the future with this community. So as I said, it's a very difficult loss. So I think it's really important that whoever we replace him with is somebody that has the kind of ability to step right in and make the kind of contributions that Carlos was making. I believe that's why our chairman, Steve Mills, suggested Joe Beal for this, and I think it's the reason that I believe that he would be the best person that we can find in this community. I think everybody up here knows very well what his abilities are. We have his resume in the packet, have a letter from Gary, and he is somebody that I believe can help us continue moving without having to start over a little bit and to keep our full momentum going. So I appoint Joseph J. Beal to seat 7 on the board, Bastrop Economic Development Corporation. And ask if there's a motion to confirm.
I move to confirm.
Discussion.
Mayor, there's no question whatsoever that Mr. Beal is a very astute and very intelligent member of our community and an extremely intelligent businessman. But I am very uncomfortable with confirming his position on the most powerful, financially powerful board in the city based on his perception of non-transparency while he was a council member. If you want me to expand on that, I will, but we all remember well, maybe Gary doesn't because he wasn't on
Yeah,
there.
please explain, because I wasn't.
Okay. We actually had to pass a resolution and as a council, and Councilmember Beal agreed with it and voted yes on it as well. That we did not condone his actions when he was representing NDOT, when he was speaking to the Austin City Council about selling water underneath the Bastrop. It was such a controversial issue, and it brought so much negativity. You remember, I'm sure, the signs all around town, "I'm here to Beal your water, talk to City Council." It's very controversial. He's no doubt an astute businessman, but he plays by a different set of rules. He sat up here on the dais and said, it's none of the citizens' business what he does when he's not up on the dais. And as a public official, I can't foster that because it is their business. We have the public trust, and we have to be transparent about it. And he does not want to be transparent. There's also another issue that I discovered recently, that he apparently was on the capital campaign committee for the Art Guild while on city council, and that helped us vote to give them $400,000 and never disclosed it. And while that might not have been a reason for him not to participate in the discussions, he never disclosed it, and that's the part that's scary. He needs to be forthcoming with his intentions and his motivations and where he comes from. And I can't foster that he's going to represent us on a board that controls millions of dollars when we don't know where his motivation comes from. He's a nice guy. He's an intelligent guy. He is well-liked. He knows everybody. If the only criteria for being on this board was being a great businessman, he would be it. But that's not the only criteria when you're serving the citizens of the city, and I can't vote for him for that reason.
I have a comment too.
Okay.
I've prepared something, I'd like to read it. It makes me very sad to do this. I have a great deal of respect for Mr. Joe Wheel's business acumen. Like the rest of the community, I'm very grateful for all the hard work he did that ultimately resulted in the Hyatt coming to Bastrop. Unfortunately, I cannot support his appointment to the EDC. My objection centers on the conflicts of interest. We recently had headline news when it was revealed that Mr. Beal, while an active member of the City Council, was being paid as a consultant by a water company. Mr. Beal did not recuse himself from any votes on water issues, did not reveal to anyone on council that he was a paid consultant in the water business, and did not have the courtesy to inform the City Council that he was making a presentation to Austin City Council to tell them they should buy Bastrop's water. Secondly, it has become clear that Mr. Beal voted on the appropriation of funds from our general fund and from hot funds to the Arts Guild building, whilst being one of the chief fundraisers for that organization. He did not recuse himself from those votes as he probably should have done. He did not inform City Council that he had a connection with the building fund. So, on 2 occasions that we know about, Mr. Beal has failed to disclose conflicts of interest on important financial matters. This does not live up to the standard we, as a council, have decided to uphold as our ethics ordinance. There cannot be a rule for Mr. Beal and a rule for everyone else. The bigger concern for me, however, is that Mr. Beal, when confronted about these conflicts of interest, said it was none of anyone's business. It is our business. It is our taxpayers' money. It is our duty as councilors to behave ethically. Mr. Beal has not only failed to live to that standard, but has indicated that he has no intention of doing so.
I would just comment that, at least because I don't have direct, and I wasn't here on the council when Joe Beal was here, but I know him to be a very upstanding individual. I've known him for, I don't know how long he's been in Bastrop, 15 years or so. And as I'm listening to the issues as far as the Arts Guild is concerned, it may be, the Ethics Commission our Ethics Commission might want to look at that, but I don't really see that as a conflict if you're not personally gaining by the activities. I mean, he had no personal gain in that. It was a community. I mean, we're all involved with community activities here. We all are involved with various charities that we try to make this community a better community. I take that one.
I'd like to answer that if I could. It's not that he was involved with the Arts Guild. The Arts Guild is an excellent project. It is that he failed to disclose that he was involved, and he helped us decide to give taxpayer money to them without disclosing that. What else has he not disclosed? Where do you draw the line? You have to be transparent. I recuse myself if I think there's a hint of any non-transparency in any board, because I don't want anyone to ever say that I have something going on in the background. With Mr. Beal, we don't know. I brought the minutes from the Art Guild, if you would like to see them, where it says that he's potentially a co-chair of their capital campaign. Their capital campaign is to raise the most amount of funds that they can, and the city contributed that, and he never told anyone. I voted for it. In fact, I think I might have moved or seconded it, because the Art Guild project is so good. All he had to do was let us know he had a conflict, and he could have recused himself from the vote, and we probably would have still gone ahead and funded it. But the fact that he didn't even bother to tell us, let alone tell the citizens, is a huge problem. It's a huge problem from a transparency standpoint.
Were you through here?
Yeah, I'm through.
I would like to ask you.
Sorry, did you have your mic on to speak? Go ahead, I'll finish it, I'll say something.
I just want to ask JC if you could address the personal gain issue. Is that the criteria that we judge ethics by, and only if someone has a personal gain? How do we look at that?
I would have to review the ordinances and see what's involved.
Can you speak?
I'm sorry, I don't have a mic.
Okay.
I would have to look at it and see what's involved. When a city official has a role in any organization or business that has interaction with the work that they're doing for the city, they have an obligation to disclose that to their fellow city council members. And then they will make a decision with that individual about whether or not a recusal is necessary or whether or not an opinion of the ethics commission might be necessary. So it's not only related to financial benefit. That's the state rule. The state rule has some financial criteria, but our ordinance is slightly different than that. It's a duty to disclose an interest. But it's not for me to speak to the individual facts of any particular circumstance. I don't know all of the facts of what's being discussed here tonight. So I wasn't here.
I don't think any of us know all the facts, because Mr. Beal never told us, and he's not here. I'd love to ask him, what was your role while you were serving as a public servant and voting to give taxpayer dollars to a project that you are in charge of raising funds for? That's a problem. It's a problem.
Well, I'm sitting here listening to all this, and especially Kay's comments about, when she was reading her prepared statement, about Joe's involvement with the water company he worked for. And I don't know if I remember all the facts right. I don't think I've ever heard Joe Bill mention in a private meeting, public meeting, or any private conversation of selling him any of Bastrop water. He may have mentioned maybe Burleson County, all the counties east of Bastrop, but I've never heard Joe Bill mention Bastrop water in particular. So I may be wrong, but I never heard that.
Maybe you need to go on Google and look it up, because it's recorded and it's televised.
Talking about the city of Bastrop
I'm
Water.
talking about city Bastrop water,
County of Bastrop Water, I guess, he didn't specify.
Well, and that's the point. I think he was talking about counties east of Bastrop. And I'm not gonna get an argument whether he should have told us or not. That's water under the bridge. I will say this, with his credentials that Joe had and his expertise, and it's sad that people want to remember from one deal about the water, but I'm gonna tell you, for the 6 years Joe Bill served in this council, the citizens of Bastrop Water thank him, because we're better off today than we were before he came on the council.
Doc?
I'd just like to, I guess, chime in also on this, because basically, we all as council members try to do what we can for our community. And we're all involved in so many different projects that are for the betterment of the community. And from what I gather, from what Joe was working with the Arts Guild and the other organizations, as we all do, we're all wanting something positive for our community, for Bastrop. And so therefore, there may be a question of transparency, that's what I'm hearing tonight, but sometimes you're doing things and you think about the betterment of the community, you think about trying to make improvements, and you don't really look at things saying that this is a conflict of interest, because it is for the common good of the community. And I think that's what Joe was doing with his role in working with the arts community. I worked with him for several years on several committees besides council, and I have found him to be quite effective and quite efficient at what he does. And also, I think that at this critical time, although I'm very disappointed also that Mr. Luriano is not going to be able to continue to serve on the EDC board, I'm glad that we had someone with Mr. Beal's credentials to step up. And I wouldn't have a problem with him serving, especially at this critical time in the development of our city and with EDC.
I don't even know how to respond to that, because the whole point of being a public servant is to serve the public. The question is not whether or not he did a good thing by helping the Art Guild. We all help charities, that's excellent. The question is whether or not we can trust him to disclose what he's involved in while he's handling taxpayer money. And he will be handling taxpayer money from the BEDC board. He's failed to disclose at least two major. The city of Bastrop is in a lawsuit right now because the protestants believe that we are selling water, or our intention is to sell water outside of this city limits. And he is responsible in part for that by his non-transparency in what he was doing. Had he said, I'm a water consultant, this is what I do for a living, I may be involved, and let us know, he could have recused himself from critical conversations, and we would not have to be wondering what he was up to in the background. Instead, he waits until he's busted, and then we have to pass a resolution that says, oh, we didn't know, and we weren't a part of it. We had to formally pass a resolution on this. We have not had to pass a resolution on any other council member's action since I've been on council. And I don't know if we've ever done that. He voted for it himself. He did not deny what he was being accused of by the public. I'll say it again, he's a very astute businessman. He knows everybody. If the only criteria is that you want a good businessman on BEDC, he's your guy. But he's going to be helping to direct millions of dollars of expenditures. And we deserve to know who he's representing and where his interests lie. We deserve to know that, and we cannot trust him with that based on previous actions. Look at the minutes of the Art Guild meeting that I just showed you. It says on one of them, he says it's co-chair of the campaign committee to raise funds. How can you be voting to give city funds to your project? That's his project. How can you do that without saying, I'm involved in this? The question is he has to disclose, and we cannot trust him to do so. I don't want to see any more signs about, I'm here to veal your water. I don't want to ask your city council. I wasn't involved in that, and that was a black eye for the city. I'm sorry that you brought him forward, Ken, because I think this is very embarrassing for all of us, and for Mr. Beal, who is not here to defend himself. And I wish he was. I wish he was here to talk about it. I'd also like to ask you why he's the only one you're bringing forward, because I thought we agreed that when there was a vacancy, you would bring all the applications forward to us. And there are other people who have applied for BEDC, and we haven't seen them.
I don't think it's nominate one person at a time.
We should have the other people in the folder,
You've seen this. You've seen everybody that's applied.
They should have been put that in again, I think. But never mind about that. I just want to say one more time, no one questions Mr. Beal's excellence in business and his dedication to making things better a lot of the time. We cannot allow public servants, we cannot endorse public servants that do not believe they need to recuse themselves when they are involved in a project like this. With what we're doing, if we vote for him to be on that committee, is saying it's okay to do this. Do we really think it's okay? Do the three of you that know that he's a great businessman really think it's okay? Because if you do, then I guess you'll vote to put him in.
I'm just looking at these minutes that you passed out. It doesn't say where I'm going to use a co-chair, so.
It says on here, co-chair.
It doesn't really matter if he's a co-chair.
It says co-chair in front of his name, so that may have been a typo. But while he's listed with the other members, there's his name in black and white on that campaign committee. This is his project to raise funds. He's given city funds, voting to give city funds, encouraging us to sponsor the project, which is a good project. It's a great project. This is not about the Art Guild. public.
Anybody else? I think we're ready to go.
Councilmember Shea,
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Gilliland,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Delarosa,
Yes.
Councilmember McInally,
Absolutely no.
Councilmember Shea.
No, he's already.
Councilmember Jackson.
We've got those. Thank you. Yes, thank you all very much. And thank you for the conversation.
Well, note this conversation because there's going to be a backlash of citizens. I've already been hearing about it. So, for the record, I'm for transparency. I don't know what the rest of y'all.
While we're waiting on Kay to return, let me clarify something that I think I might have said fuzzy in this first introduction to this item. What I did was ask the secretary send a note to council members saying, please send me your thoughts. And she accumulated those together, and I worked through the suggestions and sent them back to Ann so that she could send them out to the council. And what I did wrong was at midnight last night, I sent her a memo to Mike that was 2 weeks old. And so we corrected that, and that's why people are late getting it. And I wanted to make sure that Ann had printed it out for y'all anyway. And that's, like I said, there's one portion of that a council member asked to have as confidential. I haven't heard anything different. So I think I'll be happy to release everything else, Ann, on that, but I want to wait.
Might add that
Yeah. Okay, no, well, I'll ask the city, I'll ask, so we'll have to look at it to decide that. So as far as I'm concerned, it's fine, but I appreciate your request, and can we just take that as I don't know, if you're willing for that to be informal, we'll let JC look at it and get it to you. So, Mike and I have talked in general about that, and I want him to weigh in. Well, then there's some suggestions from some council members, and my thing is all about process. I don't care about anything except that we find a process to work through this. And Andy, I appreciate what you're saying, and if I've made a mistake on that somehow, we'll certainly get it corrected. And it's not my day job.
If I can weigh in, I'm the one who asked for it to be confidential, and only because the numbers that I used are not real numbers. They're just numbers I pulled out of my head, and I don't want I don't want to confuse anybody. I don't want anybody to think that these are our real numbers. This was just a starting place to look at where we could go, and I don't want to muddy the waters for what Mike's working on with the Hyatt. So, I mean, you can look at them, but just so you know, they're not real. They're just a starting place, and I haven't discussed them with anybody on the council yet. So,
and I see
they don't make any sense yet.
Yeah, and the logical thing for me to have done was to said, we're not sending out something if it's confidential. I mean, sometimes the staff can do that for different reasons, but I'm certainly not qualified to make that determination. I should have checked with JC. I shouldn't have sent it out at all. I was trying to make everybody included, but that's no excuse for making a mistake. So if I did, but Kelly's now saying fine, so we'll share.
It's not confidential. They're just not real numbers.
Here, you can have my copy right now.
I would add that for whatever reason, I missed your request and didn't know you were looking for input, but that's why you didn't get any input from me, because I didn't know you were looking for it.
You'll have plenty of time. So based on that, what I'm hoping that I'll say it again one more time, I'm hoping that the stuff I put in red were things that I felt from reading what I read and from previous conversations. We need to get started somewhere, and I think if we can agree on something about those and then find a process for trying to work through the details, we can just start knocking this thing out. Now, I'm laying that out. That's my offer. So, floor's open.
I would ask the city manager, it looked like your proposal was to form the BMC immediately, to hire somebody immediately, to do something immediately. I don't know if the city manager looked at the outline here.
Mike, would you just start, can back up one. Would you tell us where we stand with, because the first item is Convention Center, where we stand with your work on that, and then second, move into your thoughts about the Bastrop Marketing Corporation and relationship with Ohio. I need to get you to turn your mic on.
Apologize. I wanted the workshop that we had last week before I started to begin looking at some strategic issues at the convention center. I really didn't get the final report from Ms. Hardy until about 10 days ago. Yes. But the initial electronic copy that was sent down, we couldn't open or get access to it. And for some reason, she had to come down here and get on Tracy's computer. And no one ever told she was here, but no one or her told me that they had fixed the problem so that it was printable, until I finally said, I've got to get this report. And the week that Cammie came down, Tracy was on vacation, and she just left without telling us that it was ready to be printed. And so Tracy tracked it down, and that's when I got my copy. And I don't know what the computer glitch was, why we couldn't open it, but we just could not open the electronic version, because when I negotiated the agreement, I've been doing this on a lot of my stuff now, is I have it delivered electronically because the cost that consultants charge for making copies that we can do right here with our equipment.
So Mike, this thing is dated May 2015, so does that mean you didn't open it at all since then?
Well, that's what her start date, but if you recall, she came down in July, gave a report to the council, and from that time, it was my understanding from Cammie that she was going to wrap up the report. And I asked her one time, and she said it'll be here in a week or two, and then she didn't tell me that she had brought it down. And I'm sorry, I don't think I should be going to the consultant. The consultant should be coming to me. And so,
If she gave it to somebody, if the people on staff knew it was open, isn't it their responsibility to tell you?
well, with the first version that finally got here, we could not get open. So we contacted Cammie, and she said, I'll have to come down there and get on Tracy's computer. I don't know why it had to be done that way, but that's what she said. And the week that she came down, Tracy was on vacation. And I mean, I saw her in there working, but when I got back, she was gone. And I don't think that a staff person not affiliated with my office would have understood the importance of that report, because that's something they're not dealing with day in and day out. And so that's when I said, Tracy, where are we with getting this report? And that's when she came in and said, I guess when I was on vacation, Cammie fixed it, and now we can print it. I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm accustomed to a consultant saying, at least leaving a sticky note on my door, all Tracy needs to do is hit the print button now. I mean, if it had just left a message like that, we would have had it printed a month ago. I mean,
we are where we are, so what do we have to do to move forward? That's the question.
well, I mean, I've had it about 10 days. It's pretty much what I've gone through is pretty much what you saw back in July and the PowerPoint presentation. I don't think there's much changes from what she has recommended. I'm just trying to look at from the organizational standpoint, and I'm meeting with Ms. Word Tuesday to put those pieces together organizationally. Now, with the Hyatt, I anticipate bringing, with the city attorney, a proposal for the council to look at under consultation with attorney, a proposal from the Hyatt, because I expressed to them, I'd been out there 5 times, and I said, y'all put me in a world of hurt because I don't have anything to give the council. And so I finally, they did deliver something to Joe Christie on Friday. So, no, I haven't had any chance to even get to it. It was delivered on Friday, but I would anticipate we'll discuss it 2 weeks from tonight.
So that relates to our relationship with the Hyatt Regency, but also a potential change in the Bastrop Marketing Corporation, or just, what is it? Can you tell us in general what it entails?
Well, I mean, I'm just going based upon our discussions, what I think is in the letter, but again, I haven't gone through it in totality. My approach is what does it take, or what will you need to take to keep your occupancy rate at what it's currently at or increasing? And you need to tell me that, because that's an important issue, at least from my perspective. But correspondingly, we want some definable, measurable, that we can measure results from. So I think you'll see they're going to ask for a 2-year transition where the Bastrop Marketing Corporation gets folded into the DMO and goes away completely. And I think they're going to be asking for positions on however the structure of the DMO board is, because of the amount of revenue that they generate. And
What does that mean now? Say that again?
based upon the structure of the DMO, like if you have a 7-member board or a 9-member board, they would like a seat at the table because of the revenue that they generate, which I think is a fair request.
But what you're saying is what we'll see has something to do with maybe everything we're talking about.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But you don't really know that because you haven't read it yet, right?
I haven't read it. These are based upon our discussions.
Yeah, I think, we
So-
should talk in specifics and not speculative, because,
Right.
we can't really make decisions based on some speculation.
So that's the work you're doing. What about the convention center?
And that's part of their proposal is,
You don't have to tell us the details, but does the whole thing involve the convention center as well?
it will involve the convention center, because I feel that they can be some assistance to us, and I wanted to know where they think they can be assistance to us, and how can we measure. I want to see a percentage with assistance from them. What percentage jump can I see in revenue at the convention center?
Okay.
Because I'm trying to get us up to, my first goal is to get us up to covering our salaries, and then chip away at that.
Okay. All right. Now, Kay, then, your mic's on. So Kelly, are you thinking?
So it's kind of a moot point then to talk about this until we hear what you have to say, Mike. But I would ask that if you are going to present this from the Hyatt's perspective, that they attend this meeting on the 8th and they be allowed to also chime in. And
Sure.
if we have questions, I'd like to talk to them as well.
That's fine. I just want you to know, I made it very clear that all I do is recommend and the decisions rest with the council. But the approach that I took in our discussions is, what do you feel like it's going to take to maintain or increase your level of occupancy? And correspondingly, expect back that there'll be some clawback provisions so that if those are not obtained, what does the city get back in return if you haven't met what you've asked for? I mean, that gets back into our, like an economic development agreement. You put clawbacks in if they don't perform. I want them to perform, and the better they perform, the better off we'll be. So I
Are
wanted.
you talking about them performing on behalf of the convention center?
I'm
Or are you
talking about
their occupancy?
occupancy.
So you're going to put clawbacks in for them to increase occupancy in this agreement?
Well, we have to have some protection if we're going to agree to whatever. I mean, that's where I think currently the current agreement doesn't say if they don't achieve something, what's the consequences? And so I'm just trying to build in something that we can measure, and what we can measure is occupancy. And let's just say that you agree to the 2-year extension. What can we expect to see back in an increase in occupancy for that 2-year extension?
Yeah, and
I don't think that's an unfair request.
I don't know, I just don't know how that you can tie that to the amount that we chip in toward regional advertising. I mean, I can kind of see the connection, but I don't know if it's going to directly affect the occupancy enough to be measurable.
And maybe not, but I'm trying to balance creating a good business environment for them, but correspondingly, a safety net for the council, that if you're called on the carpet, you've got something in there that gives you some protection for the decision that you've made.
And I think you can measure their occupancy, and, you know, maybe we put some, there's all kinds of possibilities.
I mean,
You know, you could always put in there,
we really need them to come to the meeting.
yeah, sure we
too.
do. But I mean, but just following your logic, we could put something in there that says if you exceed what what you need, we get something back because you did better and you probably didn't need our help. I mean, there's all kind of stuff we can
I
put in
agree.
there. So I don't think there's interest in talking about anything in more detail until we hear Mike's report. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's right. Although, when you read this and you see my suggestions in here, know that they were just jumping points, starting points. They're not real numbers. I don't know. I need your input. It was more out of frustration that we hadn't done anything, we hadn't made any decisions, we hadn't made any progress. So I tried to put something together to at least have something to talk about.
You call them scenarios.
I call them scenarios.
That's what they were.
That's right. And I don't want you to say, oh, well, she didn't have this right, so we're going to discard these. These are just talking points, and I want you to not take them as seriously as that, but to add to them and tell me what you think, and let us get on the table talking specifics and not just what might happen in the long run.
Willie?
At the December 8th meeting, or as we talk about the possibility of a 2-year or extending the contract, what Mike mentioned, 2 years, are we going to start finally talking about the percentages that we have to pay?
If you'll read what I wrote, I've laid out every question I could think of. I'm sure you'll think of others. I think those are things we need to ask of Mike and whatever we do, and of ourselves. You know, how do we represent the community in terms of who's going to do what and when's it going to happen? And there's lots and lots of questions. So I would say, Willie, absolutely will ask that question. And, Mike's asked a question of the Hyatt. I would say, how do we know that that's right? And there's all kinds of things.
We won't be able to know what percentage we can pay.
I think we can ask anything we want to, and we can decide, or y'all can decide anything you want to. So I'd say absolutely yes, and let's think of, I'm trying to stimulate some thinking in my list of questions. Kelly and Kay have done the same thing. Gary will weigh in because he didn't know we asked him to. Ann can send that out to us if that's legal, and we can start talking in more detail once we have the meeting next week. And we know, Mike, you understand that we would like representatives from the Hyatt to be here for that conversation.
Right, and
Do we
I just
also
want,
need Hardy and Associates here for that?
Say it again?
Would we also need BMC, Cami to be here for that meeting as well? I would think so, but I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think we had asked, the Hyatt,
they currently have Cami on retainer to, the reports that I gave you tonight is reports that Cami provides to me that I forward on to the council.
so we would expect them to bring their team. And if their
Right,
team
I mean,
includes
that's-
Cami,
I mean, she's on a retainer, as I understand it at this point, she's on a retainer to handle the Bastrop Marketing Corporation requirements as they are currently stipulated in the current contract.
so I would, again, I think the
And
assumption is,
that's, there's just one thing, and it's my fault, there was a big attachment that I didn't get copied for you, but I'll send it out to you because it was too big to put onto my city manager's report. It's stuff like that that Cami produces as her management oversight. I guess she's charged with the management oversight of administering the agreement and making sure that the requirements of the agreement are taken care of and the proper reporting is provided to the council and all that. That's what she does.
So does the Hyatt own BMC now 100%?
Well, yeah, I mean, they own the facility 100%, yes.
They own BMC.
Well, yes, because, and this gets to a little bit of a legal question because I was a little bit confused about that when the sale transferred, but in talking with Ms. Brown, the way that the agreement was worded, it automatically went to the Hyatt when they purchased the Lost Pines. Normally, the agreements that I've been involved in, when a sale transpires like that, the council has to agree to the assignment. But this contract did not call for that.
and we approved the budgets. I mean, our role is approving the budget.
What your roles
Is that
are
correct?
currently is, and that's the one document that I need to get out to you, is as it currently is set up, that's why part of it is in there. You have to feel good about what they're doing with the money that you're allocating to them. And then secondly, when they, if you'll recall, we bring once a month to you authorization, as the agreement calls for the council to allow their percentage to go back to them. Now, under the hotel motel, you can either do it quarterly or monthly. Because of the amount involved, of course, they want it monthly. Now, the statute does allow for them to charge a 1% administration fee to handle the hotel motel tax. And some hotels do it, others don't, but because of the money involved, they do. But so the BMC now is under the auspices of the Hyatt, and they have hired Cami to carry forth, as I understand it, to continue to meet the requirements to the city that the agreement called for, because she had been doing it for the previous group.
For Woodbine.
Woodbine.
She actually put it together with the city and the partners and Hyatt, and she created the BMC so that it would work for our peculiar needs in the beginning.
So can I finish my question that I was trying to get to? At that meeting, are you going to bring back a recommendation or a percentage that we're going to offer or put on the table, or, because I don't know if it's, I could think of a percentage to start the ball rolling, but we need to start a conversation on that. But you're in a better position than we are to say this is the percentage we need to start at or something, because you're going to know all the costs or have an idea what the cost may be, that we don't have all that information to make that, make that
And
recommendation.
that's why my approach is because of the economic engine, that they serve here, not just for the city, but for the county. I wish they were on the tax rolls in the city. They're on the tax roll for $46 million. So the school really benefits from them tremendously from a taxing standpoint. But we do benefit from the hotel motel tax. They did have a tax abatement agreement with the county, and that ends next year. And I haven't figured it up on this current tax rate, but it's going to be, they're going to see a substantial increase in their property tax bill when that tax agreement expires, because I don't see the county extending it beyond the 10 years. And I don't believe you can do it statutorily, since they didn't do it under a 381 agreement. And so, again, my approach was, we, as the economic engine of our county, that's generating a large amount of revenue, both in hotel motel tax and, in my opinion, sales tax, because of the groups that they bring in. What percentage does it take to keep that occupancy at its current level and go up? And if you come up, and with that percentage that you come up with, you got to have some justification with that. You just can't say, I think it's X percent. We got to have something measurable and definable, again, to look at. And then after we discuss it, my thoughts are, then we need to discuss amongst ourselves, do we agree or disagree with what they have presented to us?
And I would hope it's a two-way street. Mike's been talking to him. we may have a lot of stuff to say back about it, and I hope we will.
You may totally trash it, but again, my approach and my meetings have been, my previous community, we worked on getting a hotel chain in, a national chain. And in order to do that, the developer had to spend $100,000 to do a market study, because I can't disclose it because I signed a statement I wouldn't disclose it. But in order to get the franchise over a 12-month period, not every month, but at the end of the year, the franchise wanted to see a certain percentage of occupancy at that particular hotel. And if that market study didn't support that, he would not get the franchise. The market study did support it, and so he did get the franchise, and the facility was built. Now, it's nowhere near the kind of facility that we have out there, but I would assume the same matrix of operation apply, that they have to have a certain level of occupancy to make that a sustainable business out there.
So we're going into the meeting on the 8th, waiting for them to tell us what they think they need to continue with the question you asked, instead of us going in at the same meeting and saying, this is what we think you need.
Let me ask, I think what we're doing is allowing, Mike's doing what we told him to do. He's got to come back and tell.
I'll get to a point, if you let me, I'll get to it right now.
All right.
There's a lot of misstatements going around the community that the council doesn't want to see the relationship with the high. And I'm trying to address that somewhere down the line, do it very shortly. And I don't think I've ever heard any comments that this guy that said that we want to continue some kind of relationship with the high. But the deal is, I don't think that we're going to continue that relationship at the current level that we are today. And I think as soon as we get to that point, we need to get there, start some kind of dialogue. We say that this is what we think. If we want to offer you, what can you do for us at that percentage?
I agree 100% with that, but I hope we'll talk, I know we'll talk about it, because I'm going to talk about it. But if you want to make a motion tonight that we go on record as saying we want to continue a relationship with the Hyatt, and we want to work it out with them, and we've got Mike working on it, let's pass that motion tonight so there's no question.
I don't think y'all want to
Well, make it and see.
Because the motion I want to make, that I don't think we're going to see the same level of funding with disadvantage participating in it.
I would say, well, why don't you make that motion and see what people think?
I'd like to make it if Willie won't.
Say it again.
I'd like to make it if Willie doesn't want to.
Well, let me make mine first.
All right.
I don't know if- I mean, you want to react on something I brought up and nobody else.
Put the mic on and make your motion. Let's see if there's a second.
I just, that's my other point.
D7. So we're having we're talking about our hotel occupancy tax that we've been talking about forever. So you're saying we're not posted to make a motion? All right, Willie, I'm going to let you make a statement about how you feel.
Can I make one statement
Sure.
first? In every meeting that I've attended, I know there's rumors out there that the council has been said that we are not supportive of the Hyatt. And that is a total, absolute falsification, because every meeting, the 5 meetings that I've had out there over this few months time frame, the first thing I start out the meeting with is the council is appreciative of the Hyatt being here. We're appreciative of the relationship that we have, and my charge is to enhance and improve that going forward so that we both can prosper together, and we want to continue a long-term relationship. And I will address anyone in this town. If they want to go out there, they can ask the people at the Hyatt, and they will tell them that's exactly what I've been saying.
Are you saying that I said that you were going out there and offering?
No, you've been hearing it.
I'm saying, I'm talking about just the discussion around people's community.
And I'm saying,
But they're not saying that you were initiating that conversation. It's not coming from you. That's not what the point was.
So he's putting it on the record that that's not true, though.
So your point was that you hear it around town.
Yeah.
And so Mike's saying,
I'm hearing about you, I'm talking about that people talking about they're getting these rumors. I call it rumors or lies because I've said that nobody at this council has ever said in a public meeting that we weren't going to try to continue a working relationship.
well, I'm going to apologize for not realizing why everything we usually say is da-da-da impossible action. So Ann just copied what I said, and so that may be my fault. We can certainly take that vote next meeting, and we can also declare how we all feel individually as we're discussing it. Kelly.
I would like to say that I have also heard the same rumors and had to address them several times about the council not being supportive of the Hyatt. And I think one of the reasons that this is spreading around is because we never talk specifics. We never take any action. This is dragging on forever. How long does it take for the Hyatt to say what they need to maintain their occupancy?
They have delivered that
So
to me.
then, next meeting, we can start talking specifics then, right? Okay.
Right. And I think the reason that it took so long to get a response is I think it had to go all the way up to the corporate ladder. You're operating under a different organizational structure than what you were operating under before, and I think the higher-ups at the corporate level had to sign off on that letter before it was released to me.
And that's fair enough. It's just that information hasn't been conveyed, so there's a lot of misstatements going around. So now that we know, we can expect to really start digging into this on the 8th, right?
And yes, and I have told the Hyatt specifically that it's concerning because I've heard the same rumors and it's not true, or I wouldn't be sitting here because the council wants me here to enhance our relationship. And I know of 2 businesses that the Hyatt was going to contact personally and say, you better stop spreading that rumor because that's not what Mike is coming out here saying about the council or the city.
Debbie Moore wants to speak on this topic.
Glad I chose this topic tonight, boys and girls. I appreciate the opportunity, Mayor, Council, Mr. Talbot. Mr. Talbot, you spoke about one thing that I wanted to bring up, and I hope you keep in your in your minds when you're considering how we enhance and move forward with the Hyatt, is that the DMO was never with, I mean, the Bastrop Marketing Corporation and the agreement we had was never with the Hyatt. It was with Woodbine. Woodbine owned the Hyatt, and it was an outgrowth.
Woodbine did not own it. There were 3 partners, and a Native American Indians up in Alaska had the majority interest in that.
Okay, but the BMC came out of the agreement.
Well, that was an enticement to, as part of what I would consider the economic package that encouraged them to come here and build that facility.
But from what I understand, the executive director at the Hyatt at the time, Steve Dwyer, never got involved in the marketing that was done for Bastrop and for the Lost Pines region. And since corporate now owns the Hyatt, it's a different organization. It did have to go up the ladder, where it was a different strategy and a different approval when it was not a corporate property. And if you go on the Hyatt, Lost Pines Hyatt Regency now, it markets itself as an Austin luxury hotel. If you look at what was done during the Bastrop Marketing Corporation and with the Hyatt, the only time it mentions Bastrop is it says that it's between the airport and Bastrop, Texas. So the whole strategy, and I'm not criticizing, it's just it's now a corporate entity, and they've got their own marketing for that entity. And you go to what the Bastrop Marketing Corporation has done. The first thing they have, the first tab up there is Bastrop, Texas. Visit the Lost Pines. Visit the region. I would hope that before we do anything with the Hyatt, that we ask them what their marketing strategy for Bastrop and the Lost Pines is. Because obviously it has worked in the past, because this Hyatt has gotten nothing but stellar ratings in the whole Hyatt organization throughout the country and throughout Texas. So there's a lot to be considered, and I hope that we make sure that whatever monies we rebate to the Hyatt, that we know what they're going to spend it on.
Yeah, let me say that thank you very much. Let me say that Willie and Doc were involved in the creation of the original Bastrop Marketing Corporation. A totally different situation they were in. They wanted the Hyatt to come. They were going to give them whatever incentive they could, like the county did. Everything we could possibly do to make that work, because we didn't have any kind of marketing experience. Well, as somebody mentioned last meeting on the 17th, got 10 years of experience now, $9 million down the road. Totally different level of situation for them and us. We're going to be taking charge of it in a way that I'm hoping we're going to take charge of it and control in a way that we never did before. And so the Bastrop Marketing Corporation is one thing, and one ingredient Mike mentioned that's important is we want to make sure that they can maintain their level of occupancy out there for a lot of reasons. And but it's a totally different situation from every angle, and I think we've got to look at it from what's best for the citizens of Bastrop, and that's a complex question. It's got a lot of feelers with it. Kelly.
Well, I'd like to add to that, because I agree with you, Mayor, but I'd like to add to that our portion that we currently contribute and whatever percentage we end up with for the future is for regional marketing and not Hyatt-specific marketing. And they have a marketing budget that is specific to Hyatt. So when you talk about measuring occupancy, is our contribution a drop in the bucket for what they are planning to spend? I mean, especially if our amount goes down.
Those are the questions we need to be asking.
We do need to ask that, and we also need to ask if, to Debbie's point, they had to go to the top to get permission to tell you what they need. Are they going to have to go to the corporate office to be able to highlight Bastrop in part of their marketing plan? Or will they be able to control that here? We need to know that too.
Or will we control it by what we set up?
Or we may control it ourselves. That's right.
I do want to stress that in all of our discussions, they clearly recognize that the Bastrop Marketing Corporation cannot go on forever. It has to end at a point because it's just not feasible. They've been given their incentive, and they fully understand at a point that it's going to go away and be incorporated into whatever structure we come up with. And the only thing that they've asked in that transition from doing away with the Bastrop Marketing Corporation and the structure that we come up with, they would just like a seat at the table, which I don't think is an unreasonable request.
I think, as Doc has pointed out, by my mistake, we can't take any action, but I think we've all got a pretty good view of what starts in real earnest next week. Mike will have had time to review and reflect on what he's got and what he wants to go back with, and we'll have the same thing, and we'll ask our hard questions. We'll have a conversation with people from the Hyatt, and again, I hope that that you will take a look at what's in that document that I sent out today, to see if that stimulates some things about questions we ought to be asking, issues we want to raise, and add to them, because I don't want to leave any stones unturned on this process, because, and including what the citizens are going to be coming and telling us. There's no telling what else we're going to hear. It's real important.
And I just don't want to beat a dead horse to death, but it's been a transition for the Hyatt, and it's been a transition for the city. But I just can't stress enough that the Hyatt truly respects the council, and this rumor that the city does not want the Hyatt it falls upon deaf ears at the executive level over there at the Hyatt. They fully appreciate the city council. They appreciate the support that you've given them, and they are committed to working with the city. It's going to be under a different structure because of the corporate structure, and that's just something we're going to have to work through. But it is just totally, excuse my English, a damn rumor that somebody's trying to stir up trouble when we're trying to work through a very difficult process and keep a good relationship. And I think it's there, and I think we have a council here that will continue that to happen.
Good, well said, Mike. Okay, we have finished our agenda. Do we have executive session?
Yes, sir.
What should I read, everything?
Yes, sir.
The Bastrop City Council will meet in a closed executive session pursuant to the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, at sequence, to discuss the following: Section 551.0711A and Section 551.0712, consultation with attorney concerning potential, pending, threatened, or contemplated litigation and claims, including but not limited to water permits and supply, matters upon which the attorney has a duty and responsibility to report to the governmental body concerning the same, and/or any other matters posted on the agenda, including but not limited to contracts and negotiations on the renewal of an interlocal agreement with Bastrop County pursuant to LGC Chapter 242 et seq. And number 2, Section 55.072, deliberation regarding real property, regarding the purchase, exchange, lease, disposition, or value of real property. 3, Section 551087, economic development negotiations, to discuss or deliberate regarding commercial information that the governmental body has received from a business. We are in executive session.
You're going to go back here?